We're going to be starting a new lesson today. It's 6.1, and it's all about fractions, decimals, and percents, which should hopefully come as a review to you from last year. So let's go ahead and start off with this first side. I want you to see fractions, decimals, and percents are all interchangeable. So go ahead and write that there into your notes. Can someone explain to me what interchangeable means? Basically, what interchangeable means is there's three different ways that you can write the same exact thing, okay? So if you look right here and I say 50% of our class is here, what fraction is 50%? 1/2. Okay, 1/2. So interchangeable just means 50% basically means the same thing as 1/2. It also means 50% is the same thing as the decimal 0.5. So let's look at our next example here. It says 25%. Does anyone know what decimal 25% would be? What is it, guys? 0.25. Now, everything that we have is out of 100%. So if I have 25% as a fraction, that means 25 out of 100. Can 25 hundredths be reduced at all? Yes. To 1/4, okay? So 25 hundredths means the same thing as a 1/4, which means 1/4 is the same thing as 25%. Now there's a few rules that I'm going to teach to you just so that you know exactly how to figure out what the decimal, the fraction, and the percent would be. I want you to go ahead and take a couple minutes and write down this slide. All right, so there's a few rules. The first one, if I am changing from a percent to a decimal, class, read it to me. What does it tell me I need to do?
Move the decimals 2 places to the left.
All right, very good. So I'm going to move it 2 places to the left. Next up, a decimal to a percent, what do I do?
Move the decimals 2 places to the right.
And then I have to?
Add the percent.
All right, very good. Next up, a fraction to a decimal, what's my main thing I have to do? You're simply dividing it. And then the fraction to percent, you're going to divide it, move 2 places to the right, and then add the percent sign. So let's go ahead and start with this first one right here. It says to write the percent as a decimal. Looking at the first one, Kalani, where is my decimal point for 46%? Okay, very good. So it's imaginary. You can't see it, but it's 46%, and there's a little decimal point right there. Kalani, what should I do with that decimal point? Move it 2 places to the left. So it's coming over here, and then you basically can say now the decimal point is right here, and this one has disappeared. So Kalani, what's my answer? 0.46, and that means it's interchangeable. Once again, 0.46 means the same thing as 46%. All right, Christian, next one I've got 245%. Where is my decimal point at?
In front, like in front of the 2.
Nope.
Oh, really?
Where's every imaginary decimal point at?
Like at the 2.
It's always at the end of the number, at the very end, okay? How many places do I need to move that decimal point?
2 spaces.
Okay, I'm going to move that 2 spaces over here. 1, 2. Now you can see that it is in between the 2 and the 4, and this goes away. So Christian, what's my answer?
2.45.
Okay, very good. 2.45 is the same thing as 245%. On to the next one. Joseph, where is my decimal point at?
Behind the 0.
It's behind the 0 because it's always at the end. Which direction do I move it?
Left.
And how many places? 2 times. Okay, it's going over 1, 2. What's my new answer?
0.20.
Okay, you could say 0.20. Now, guys, do I need that 0 at the end?
No.
No. This right here, because it's at the end, it can simply disappear. If I had a 0 at the beginning, that can also disappear, okay? But I do not want you to box this in and say your final answer looks like this, because that looks a little messy, okay? So what should your final answer be?
0.2.
Just plain old 0.2. Okay? Let's go on to the next one. Do you see the decimal point?
Yes.
Yes, that one's not imaginary. Which direction do I need to move it?
Left, right,
Which way have we moved all of them?
left.
We've moved them left, so guess which one this one's going?
Left.
It's also going left because the rules say anytime that you have something like this, you're going to move it 2 places to the left, guys. Okay, so what's the answer?
126. Repeating. And 6 repeating.
0.126 repeating. Listen, if it had the repeating there already, you're going to keep the repeating sign there once again, okay? So the main idea that you got to remember with this, always take your decimal point, move it 2 places to the left, all right? Now, my next instructions for number 2 say to write the decimal as a percent. What do I have to do when I'm changing something from a decimal to a percent, guys? Good job. Move the decimal 2 places to the right and then add the percent sign. So Riley, you can see it's right here. This is how you show me work. 1, 2. What is the answer now, Riley? So if it would be 5% do you think that I need to keep that 5 point there?
Nope.
No. What can I do with that decimal point?
Cross it out.
Cross it out. Get rid of it. Okay. So that just means 5%. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Olivia, which direction am I going to be moving my decimal point? 2 places to the right. 1, 2. What's my answer? 125%. I want you to bump it off for someone to do problem C. Maddie's up. You see that decimal point. Which way am I going to be moving it?
Right.
How many places?
2.
Okay, 1, 2. What are you left with? 0.42%. Okay, sometimes people are like, I can't have a decimal point and a percent at the same time. You can, because all you're allowed to do is just move it 2 places. Okay, Anais, what do? Okay, 1, 2. What happens right there to that little scoop? I'm going to drop the egg into the egg carton. Anais, what's my answer? 60% is correct. So 0.6 means the same thing as 60%. Any questions on how to change a decimal to a percent? How many of you feel like this makes perfect sense? All right, we're going to move on to do one more main idea. This one says to write the fraction as a decimal and as a percent. First thing we're going to do is move this fraction into a decimal. How do I do that, guys? Divide, okay? Our notes that we wrote on the front tell us all we have to do is divide. So here's what this means. I am simply going to be taking the 4, which is the number here on top, and I am dividing it by 5. Guys, what is 4 divided by 5? 0.8. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just put that right there. It asks me now to write the fraction as a decimal and as a percent. This is my decimal. Now, how do I do 0.8 as a percent, guys?
Move it to the right 2 times.
Move it to the right 2 times. 1, 2. And what percentage is 0.8?
80%.
It means the same thing as 80%. Now, when you're giving me your final answer, guys, I don't want this kind of work to be your boxed in answer. Does that make sense? It just looks a little sloppy. So I want you to rewrite just like I've got here. I am looking for a decimal and a percent as your final answer. Problem B, 3 over 1,000. What do I have to do with that? Divide. Listen, this fraction bar right here says 3 divided by 1,000. What do I get, Kaylee? Okay, I've got 0.003. Are there any of those zeros that can just float away and go goodbye?
Yes, the one on the end.
Not all of them.
The one in front of the decimal.
The one in front of the decimal. Listen, a lot of times people today have been trying to just let those zeros right there disappear. They cannot, because they are tucked in between the decimal point and a number, okay? So the only one you can get rid of is that 0 in front of the decimal point. So now my answer for that one, I'm looking for a decimal. It's 0.003. Now, how do I do that as a percent?
Oh, right.
Okay, we're going to take that little decimal point. It goes to the right. 1, 2. Now it's over here. This one can go away. What is my answer?
3%. 30%.
Not 3%. Look, guys, what's that right there?
0.3%.
0.3%. Okay, so just because you think I don't want the decimal point to be there, you cannot just let it disappear like that, okay? So the correct answer is 0.3%. All right, I want you guys to try to do the next 2 on your own. All right, guys, this next one I have 17/15. What I've got to do is divide it. 17 divided by 15. What's my decimal for 17 divided by 15?
1.13 repeating.
1.13 repeating. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick that as my final answer. How do I get that to turn into a percent?
By dividing.
Move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, then what's my answer for a percent? 113 repeating. All right. I want you to show me that you've got your boxed in answer that has a decimal and a percent in the same box, okay? A lot of people are forgetting to box in the decimal, but that's part of your final answer here. Let's go on to the next one. 22/4. What's my decimal, guys? 5.5. All right, so that's my decimal. Austin, what do I do to turn that into a percent?
You move the decimal 2 places to the right.
Move it 2 places to the right. 1, 2. What do I do with that empty scoop?
You put a 0.
Put a 0 in it. Remember, I do not want you just boxing this in. Why do I not want to see this right here boxed in? It's got scoops in it, okay? It looks messy. It's hard to read, so make sure you're not doing that. But let's rewrite it. What's my answer?
550%.
550% is interchangeable. It means the same thing as 5.5. Any questions?
No, man.
All right. All right, for the next one, I want you and your partner to go and do number 1 together, both A and B. All right, so for this next one, I saw a lot of correct answers. Elena, help me out. Write the percent as a decimal or the decimal as a percent. 39%, what would that be?
0.39.
0.39 is correct. It's right there on the end. You have to move it 2 places to the left. 0.39 is the correct answer. Let's go on to the next one. What do I have to do with my decimal point, guys?
You have to move it to the right.
2 places to the right. And what do I get? 5%. Remember, because the point is at the end, it's imaginary. You do not have to put it in there, okay? Final problems of the day. I want you to go to number 2. Go ahead and do A and B with your partner. Now look, it's asking you to write it as a decimal and as a percent, okay? So make sure you're doing it with both. All right, 7/10. What would that be as a decimal, guys?
0.7.
0.7, okay? Or you could do 0.7, but you don't really need that 0 in front, okay? Now, what do I do to that to make it a decimal?
Put it to the right twice.
Scoop to the right twice, and what's the answer?
70%.
Okay, so 0.7 means the same thing as 70%. Next up, Austin, 14/5. What is that as a decimal?
2.8.
2.8. All right, now help me out, Kalani. How do I make that into a percent? All right, very good. I move it 2 places to the right. And Connor, what do I get? 280% is correct. Raise your hand if you and your partner both got those correct. All right, excellent. So listen, I want to do one last problem. This is tonight's homework. But let's just imagine that I have something that is 1/3. What is 1/3 as a decimal point? 0.3 repeating. Guys, what does 0.3 repeating mean? All right, 0.3 going on forever. If I needed 1/3 to be a percent, what would it be?
30.
Not 30. Look, this goes 2 places to the right, so what would it be, guys? It would be 33.3%. All right, so you're going to need that for tonight's homework. Okay, good job today.